Representative James Clyburn, one of the most influential Democrats in South Carolina, has announced his endorsement of Hillary Clinton.
Of course!
Surprising some people, I think, but not necessarily that many people. And this, of course, if you've been paying attention to South Carolinian politics, marks a change from just a few weeks ago when he said that he would wait until after the South Carolina primary had concluded to actually give his endorsement so that he wouldn't influence the results. Perhaps the results are a little bit less certain now, and so he is doing his endorsement, and he listed some of the reasons why. He said it was because of her record on fighting income inequality, advocating for health care, and restoring voting rights as the impetus for his decision. And he specifically talked about the differences in Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders' higher education financing approaches, which you're going to see in this video.
Hillary Clinton's proposals for accessible and affordable higher education will relieve the crushing debt of college loans and preserve the value and viability of historically black colleges and universities. And Hillary Clinton is far and away the best choice to reform our criminal justice system and restore the Voting Rights Act to its rightful place as the most effective guardian of that most sacred right for every eligible American in our communities.
And just to be clear, the reason that he references the historically black colleges there is that because they are private universities, they would not be affected by the free four-year public education grants that Bernie Sanders would provide.
I'm dying to jump in. Okay, so I listened to him being interviewed by Andrea Mitchell on MSNBC this morning as well, and he made an argument about how Bernie Sanders' program of making tuition at public universities free would hurt these private historical black universities because it would create too much competition and students would rather go to the free universities. That's not a good argument, dude. That's actually a terrible argument, right? Like, I get it. You want to make sure you preserve these historic black universities. I think it's important to do that as well. Believe me, they'll continue to exist, right? You want to give students an option to get affordable free education so they're not burdened by student loan debt. The fact that you're against that is crazy, especially if your whole point is, oh my God, we got to preserve the historical black colleges. Yeah. I hate that argument. It drove me crazy. And also the other thing about Hillary Clinton and how she has been better at tackling income inequality. Really? She has? Like, why is she better at tackling income inequality? Bernie's been more of a warrior on that issue than Hillary Clinton has been.
So two things about that. Now, if you wanted to make a positive statement about Hillary Clinton, there's plenty of things you could say. Her education program, as I've argued over and over, is actually very good, might even be better than Bernie Sanders, in my opinion, okay? So Bernie Sanders gets a lot of credit for providing the possibility of free, it's not free education overall, it's not just
it's free tuition.
Free tuition,
yes.
Okay. So now, but then if you frame it as somehow Bernie Sanders is against black colleges, well, then you're being a dick.
Yes.
Okay, because now you're really, now you could, there's 1,000 different ways to put that. It makes it seem like Bernie Sanders is against black people when that is preposterous. And that is totally not the case. His program would tremendously help young African Americans get free tuition at all these colleges.
His framing is very intentional.
It's purposely misleading.
Yes.
You're doing it on purpose to make it seem as if Bernie Sanders does not like African Americans and Hillary Clinton does. Now, Hillary Clinton was great in fighting for African Americans, Latinos, etc. earlier in her career, and then you can argue throughout has done some positive things, although for a while she called African American kids super predators. Okay, no, it could have been any kid. Super predators was meant for African American kids. She used it and said you got to bring them to heel. But again, to be fair, there were great moments in Hillary Clinton's career with African Americans. But you don't have to say that while implying that somehow Bernie Sanders is not for African Americans or is not for income inequality, because then you become not credible and obviously biased. So now let me explain why Clyburn decided to endorse Hillary Clinton when he said he wouldn't endorse anybody. Number one, the endorsements usually go to the person, especially in the beginning when Hillary Clinton looked like what the press kept calling the presumptive nominee. If you're more likely to win, you're going to get more endorsements because those guys want something in return later. Okay, that's called politics, and I get it. I'm not overly against that. There's a little bit of horse trading going on. If you have pre-existing relationships, and the Clintons have pre-existing relationships, you can call it friendships, or you can say, hey, they did a favor, they got a favor back with almost everybody in Washington. That keep it real. Now, despite that, Clyburn had not done the endorsement yet. Now, as Hillary really needs that endorsement, here's the part that's very important that almost nobody else talks about. If you cross Bernie Sanders and you endorse someone else, in this case Hillary Clinton, there will be no consequences. Bernie Sanders will not come for you. He'll not punish you. The Clintons have a list, right?
Yeah.
They have long memories and they do punish people. Now, again, I get it, and that's actually could be argued as strong politics, right? But you know that you're not going to have to worry about that with Bernie Sanders. And then the other part of it is Bernie Sanders will not do you any favors. So when he gets into office, he's going to go and push for his policy. And if you say, hey, you know what, I'd like this, he's going to say, well, that sounds like corruption. I'm not going to do that. Whereas Hillary Clinton would be like, oh, you were on the nice list.
Yeah.
Here's your bridge, here's your highway, here's et cetera. Again, there's a case to be made for it if you like that kind of politics, but that's what leans almost all the endorsements to go to Hillary Clinton as opposed to Bernie Sanders.
It's incredible how much you get punished for not being a dirty politician. Like, the dirtier you are, the more you get rewarded. And it's the most frustrating thing to see.
I think you guys are doing a little bit of what Clyburn did. I think you have a really strong point that there was no need to make the point about historically black colleges. That I mean, the need was, I'm South Carolina's far and away most important black politician, and I'm speaking to my constituents, and make sure you turn out in droves for Hillary Clinton. I think you delivered that point with the endorsement. That was enough. So, but I mean, he's not. First of all, Jim Clyburn is not. I thought he was retiring. Maybe he's sticking around longer than I thought. I mean, I don't think he's looking to get paid. By the Clinton machine.
No, but to be fair, Ben. Sorry, I know I'm interrupting, but his daughter works in Washington circles, and yes, she gets hired. She doesn't get hired.
Yeah, she was
Those things are relevant.
She was on the FCC.
Yes, that's right.
I got it. They're a connected family, but also that goes to they've been connected for a while. That the Clyburn-Clinton political alliance has been there for some time.
Yeah.
So and I'm no doubt that if there were Clinton people here, they could make an argument that plenty of people who didn't endorse the Clintons have not been cut off from Washington life by the Clintons afterwards.
Yeah.
But
it's the timing that makes people.
But the timing also comes down. I don't know who released this story. I just think these things are much smaller than you guys end up giving them credit for. There was stories circulated over the weekend when it was said that Clyburn, who had said throughout, he never said, I'm definitely not going. He said, I probably wouldn't endorse. And obviously, at some point, if you have political power, his time for using it ends after Saturday.
That's true.
You better go ahead and fire your gun. There's no point in endorsing 2 weeks after the Democratic primary. But stories came out that Clyburn was torn, and that Clyburn was his head said one thing and his heart said something else. We know what that meant. His head said Clinton, she's most likely to win. She's got experience, but his heart meant I'm hearing Bernie Sanders and I like it. I dig it. And so those stories got circulated out there, and then clearly pressure came to bear. Hey, that's essentially endorsing Bernie Sanders. Now a longtime Clinton ally, the most powerful black politician in South Carolina, isn't speaking, and you're talking about you're torn between your heart and your head. So he specifically said in his endorsement, there have been stories about heart and head. I've always been with Hillary Clinton. So I don't know, maybe the Clinton people leaked it to double reverse and sneak. I don't know. But
Ben, so I agree with you. And these days endorsements not only almost mean nothing, but are usually counterproductive. South Carolina is a rare case that's not the case.
Yeah, this
Clyburn might be able to turn out African Americans for Hillary Clinton, so it actually could be slightly relevant. But it does go towards our politician point, which is apparently, according to the reports, his heart was with Bernie Sanders. Not only did he not go with his heart, he then went and said, oh, come here for a second, for the watch, right? And Hillary Clinton sends her regards, and instead talked about, oh, he's against black colleges.
Yeah, that framing really frustrated me.
I got you. I'm sure it frustrates you. This is a dirty, ugly business. There's a winner and there's
I'm not including this story in the rundown because it's ugly. It's also inaccurate, and that's the final point I want to make on this. We keep alluding to the education policies. At some point, maybe next week, we need to do an actual extensive rundown of the different policies.
Yes.
If you say that making the public colleges free is going to cause people to then go to those public colleges instead of the historically black colleges, well, then it would seem like then, in response, those historically black colleges, as well as other private colleges, would be forced to finally cut the cost of tuition.
Yes.
And that would drive down the cost of private universities as well, which is what we keep saying for decades we're going to do eventually. Now, I think that her setting up the $25 billion fund in her plan to incentivize people going to the historically black colleges and to improve them is perfectly fine. I think he should have something like that. But just a quick intro to the differences in the policy. Her policy requires every student to do work study, which I know from doing work study means that your grades go down and you do less well in school. Her plan, and not Bernie's plan, requires every family to contribute, to continue to pay based on an assumption of what is reasonable for that family to pay. And finally, the point that she keeps making about Bernie Sanders' plan is, my plan isn't going to allow Donald Trump's kids to go to public colleges for free. Well, I didn't see a lot of billionaires' kids going to UConn when I was there. I don't think that'll change under this new plan, and that's extremely important historically in America, because we know when programs are given to everybody, they tend to be very hard to change politically and cut, like Social Security and Medicare and things like that. When you instead make programs that don't benefit the rich and only benefit people of lower means, then those are welfare programs, and eventually they end up on the chopping block.
You have two Democratic politicians who are both significantly interested in education reform.
I agree.
Here's what they would do. They'd work out a deal. Clearly, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders could come to an agreement if they were the people deciding this, and they'd both sign off. They'd pick, that's good from your part. Oh, that's good from your part. So hammering each other over whose plan is better at this point is silly. They're both getting A's. They're the first people to talk about it.